Everybody has to have 3A4. Now, if your 3A4 is too high as compared to what your 2D6 is, your liver can't metabolize codeine into morphine that gives you pain relief. Does that make sense? If you drink grapefruit juice, it can drop your 3A4 down so that you can get some benefit in pain relief, and you can make some morphine. Still making a little sense? Okay. Now, if you have too much 2D6, if you have really a lot of 2D6 and your 3A4 is here, you can metabolize the drug so fast that it's in and out of your system before you get any benefit from the pain relief. How many of you know someone, or you yourself may even be someone, that when you receive pain medication that it doesn't get any benefit, that you don't get any benefit? Do you know anybody who doesn't get any benefit? Yep, got a couple there. Okay, and there, yep. Hey, and it may be that it's this combination of the too high 2D6. So this whole area of measuring where 3A4 and 2D6 are is quite important. If 2D6 is way, way high, they give you quinidine, and it drops it down a little lower, so that you metabolize the medication a little bit slower and get some benefit from the pain relief. Still with me? Okay, now our groups. We need our groups to get together. Go ahead in our groups. And the other groups, everybody else can help them. Everybody else can help them. But I didn't know how much candy to bring. And Lyle's already ate his, so. So get together. Have at least 3 to 5 people in your group. And what your group is your group is a liver. Now, 3A4 is a Hershey's Kiss. 2D6 is going to be a peanut butter cup. The Starburst, which you don't have yet, it's going to be grapefruit juice, and the little hard caramels are going to be quinidine. Okay. Now I know you've already forgotten the ratio. I always forget the ratio, so don't panic. I'm going to give you a cheat sheet. Right? What I want you to do first is I want you to look at the candy that's in your bag. You got your little group there too? Look at the candy in your bag. And for everybody else, and I've got my 9 volunteers, so this is kind of what we got. Go ahead and look at the bag and tell me, can you metabolize codeine? Now it's kind of hard right now just looking at it because you have to remember, wait, which one was high and which one? No, that's all right. Okay, so here is the summary down here. If you have more 2D6 than 3A4, you can convert. If you have more 3A4, so here's your little cheat sheet. Pardon? Gosh, I don't know. What if they're equal? What do you think you need? And we're doing this very simplistic, remember. Right now, for our example, we need them to be unequal. So what would you need? How many of you have equal? You got equal and you got equal? Okay, well let's say and there's some on the floor too. And how are you? Can you make codeine? You need some grapefruit juice, but here's what you got. Okay, and what do you have over here? Okay, so we got a little mixture in there. What are you? You have too much 2D6, but this is what you got. So what do you need to do? Yes, over here. That's an excellent question. The question was, how much grapefruit juice is too much grapefruit juice? And it varies with the medication. I'll tell you, we have a doctor at the University of Colorado. He's an older gentleman. He just married a sweet young thing a few years ago. They, of course, have a lovely little baby. He needs insurance. He's not passing the test. He knows about this research. He started pumping down a gallon of grapefruit juice, well, basically half a gallon a day. And it dropped his cholesterol level down low enough that he passed the test for the insurance. So you can trick the science. But those of us, we wouldn't know what to do. So how much is too much? You look at your prescription bottle and you will see, especially for heart medications, you're going to have a lot of them that say, do not drink with grapefruit juice. You don't drink it with grapefruit juice because what does grapefruit juice do? Reduces 3A4. If your 3A4 is too low, is that good or bad? For this example, it would help you metabolize. But for other medications, it doesn't work the same way. So you can't use the candy example and carry it home. So can you metabolize morphine? Not at the moment. Okay, now tell you what you want to do. You want to either eat a candy or you want to stick one aside and you can take what you want in there. Same thing, can you metabolize? Okay, and just to mix it up there, go ahead and either eat a candy or take one aside for later. Same thing with each one of the groups. Take a candy. Lyle, do you need more, honey? How about back here? Okay, and can you metabolize yet? What do you need? Oh, okay, why? You didn't get any extra, did you? How rude, how rude. Okay. Did I miss any other groups with grapefruit or quinidine? Okay, so now that you have eaten or removed a couple candies, can you convert? You can convert. Can you convert? Okay. How about back here? Okay. And over here? Can you convert now? Okay, they're still working it. They just got their candy, so it's fair. They have longer. Okay. How about your group? Can you convert? You convert. Okay, good. And is the candy still fresh, by the way? Okay. You can't tell when you travel with it sometime. Okay, do you kind of get an idea of how this works? Okay, so pharmacogenetics is where they are actually trying to figure out all of these types of things. What is the balance? Pardon? Yes, you can go sit now. Thank you. And you can keep the candies. I'll take the bags, though. Thank you to my groups. Okay, thank you to the groups. Okay, so one of the things that you need to do is, of course, you have to read medical labels, and you'll see things like do not take quinidine, or quinine. Where it's particularly important is, like, I have a friend from Vietnam who had malaria in Vietnam, and he's always still has some bouts with the issues where he has to still take quinine. And with his medication, it will throw him completely off. And he didn't know for years why he was having so many side effects to the different medication. Hey, KU. So if you get too much grapefruit juice, it offsets the balance, but it's not a done deal. It's not that, like I just mentioned, that the doctor friend, shouldn't call him a friend, acquaintance at University of Colorado just started over-consuming the grapefruit juice so he would pass his test. Well, if he really wants to keep his level that low, he really needs to keep drinking grapefruit juice. But it interferes with his other heart medication. You know, so it's really a difficult thing. You don't want to play with it. You don't want to use this example and just start applying it to your own medication. But talk to your doctor if you have side effects and see if there's something that you can do to help do it. So I did want to tell you about a real pharmacogenetic study that is actually there in the publication phase right now. And I just received information last night from one of the principal investigators at the University of Montana. They are a partnership with 5 tribes in Montana, and they're looking at pharmacogenetics. They're looking at 2D6 and 3A4, just what you just did with the little candies. And what's interesting is what they've got this nice partnership. They're looking at cytochrome P450, that's what the P450 means. And they wanted to see if American Indians metabolize medications differently than do other people who live in the same region. And what Mark's email, we already knew, by the way, that half of southwestern American Indians have variations with this 3A5, which is in the same family as 3A4. About half, which that means about half of the southwestern American Indians are likely to need individualized testing to make certain a medication will work for them. Well, what they're already finding in this partnership with the 5 tribal nations is that they're the same for several of the different enzymes, but they're totally different on one of them. They're different enough that they think that some of the medications, that their standard recommendations for how medication should be taken needs to be modified for the local American Indian community. In other words, they need to be tested to see if they have this variation in this one little enzyme. They also found that for the other 4 enzymes that are in the native communities, they were basically the same as for the white people who live in the same area. So there was no big difference in that. And so there were a lot of medications that it's not going to have any effect at all. It's only if that extra little enzyme comes into play. But they found that both the white community and the Montana tribal nations, that their enzyme balance was totally different or was significantly different from African Americans and from Asians. Now, that's important because who tests out the drugs? It's usually whites, but it's a lot of Asians. So you're likely to get very different proportions in recommendations. Or as an example, we have breast cancer screening guidelines. They're based on white women because the racial group that gets the highest breast cancer is white women. And they start screening at age 50 because only 1/4 of white women develop breast cancer prior to age 50. What is the average age of onset for breast cancer for American Indian women? In the 40s, in the early 50s, I'm sorry, in the 40s. 1/2 of our survivors are diagnosed with breast cancer prior to age 50. We cannot follow white guidelines for screening because it's too late for our community. So we have to have a way that people begin to look at genetic variations, geographic variations, whatever it happens to be, and sometimes it's tribal variations for changing when such screening begins. Does that make sense? So you have to look at where research starts from and who the top population group is that research is done with, and is the research generalizable to other people of all racial groups? And the majority of it is. The majority of it transfers just fine, but not everything. I'll give you a real common thing. What kind of a health condition is recommended? And there's several, but there's one in particular that you are supposed to eliminate salt from your diet. High blood pressure. Everybody knows that, right? I mean, that's been on the news forever. What proportion of people with high blood pressure benefit by removing all salt from their diet? 1/3. 1/3. 2/3 of people get no impact at all on blood pressure from either adding or removing salt. Does salt add flavor to food? Absolutely. Do you have to go through the rest of your life tasteless? Maybe not. But you have to check to find out. But the medical recommendation is, you know what? 1/3 is doggone high. If 1/3 of the people are affected, is it going to hurt the other 2/3 to give up salt? Nah. Unless they have a goiter. But basically, it's not going to affect most people. Right? So it's a solid recommendation. So most recommendations are still going to cross over. So, okay, questions in general on pharmacogenetics, anything at all? Yeah. Yeah. Almost never. And what she asked is if you go into a non-IHS facility to take part in like mammography or some of the new breast screening technologies, which by the way, we're going to have Marilyn Rubidoux webinar that we just did where she's highlighting and explaining the new breast cancer screening methodologies in a webinar that she did with us on May 22nd. It will be up on our website once I get home long enough to give my husband the file, because he does all of our website stuff. And it's absolutely wonderful and really much more specific types of tests that really are finding breast cancers much more specifically so that you really know what you're removing and what you're taking care of. I mean, it's really quite wonderful. So if you go into a non-IHS place, can you go in and get reimbursed for the screening? No. Generally, no. Who will reimburse you is the Susan G. Komen for the Cure and the Avon Foundation. So if you're working in breast early detection type of a program, you want to create partnerships with Avon, with Susan G. Komen, but the state-supported funding in general, they won't do it unless they have a real good explanation that CDC will accept. CDC meaning the Centers for Disease Control. And we have had women screened in our program through CDC, but they had a good reason. They said, you know, they've had a lot of different symptoms and there is breast cancer in their family. We did not get them tested for BRCA1. Did anybody talk about BRCA1 or BRCA2 yesterday? BRCA, BR means breast, CA means cancer. 1 means the very first marker that was identified for breast cancer. So for BRCA1, there is a very expensive test that Myriad runs. It's about $1,300. And to this date, we have no one in the lower 48 who has been diagnosed with BRCA1. We have had Indian people who have been diagnosed with breast cancer who have been told that they should need to take the test, which we don't have the money. Indian Health Service will not pay for that test at all. They will not pay for it. And what other places are going to pay for it? So people are ending up, they're not getting money to be able to pay for shoes for their kids going to their school, or, you know, whatever happens that their needs are, and they're wasting money on this test. You have to have certain risk factors to take the BRCA1 or the BRCA2 test. If you don't have the risk factors, you don't take it. But if you have family members who have had breast cancer, there's other things that they want to look at with that. And CDC has approved us to have some of our local ladies screened for that. So we have gotten some, but it's an individual negotiation with your project officer. What else? Anything? I don't necessarily know the answer, but you can ask anything. Then I'll ask Daniel or Lyle or, yeah.
About the potential for a whole community being labeled as at risk, and what can that do to individuals or just, you know, cultural community labeling, like, okay, this whole community is at risk for cancer. Is that, someone, I don't know if that's been an issue, but that's...
It is definitely an issue, and it actually is enough of an issue that Lynn Bemis is my co-PI for the GENA curriculum that we've been doing since 1996. And we'll get these little announcements every once in a while that you get cheat sheets about what the pharmacogenetics are for certain racial groups. And so we always right away, we say, we want one of those. We want to see what it's going to be saying. Because we don't even like that statement about half of Southwestern people have this variation in the marker. To us, what we think that means is that you need to test every Southwestern American Indian to make certain they're going to be medicated appropriately. Right? And that's a different issue. Some of the tribes are concerned also that if they take part in something that they're going to be discriminated against, or that their specimen is going to be used to create a patent, then would raise the cost of the drug so much that the local tribal community would not be able to benefit and take part in that. You know, the 5 Montana tribes, they've already negotiated for the patent part. They've already said, yo man, like right now we're at the beginning of doing this research, and this is, you know, this is really good. We're interested in this. You know, but if a patent comes out of this, we want money coming to our tribe, or we want to guarantee that for as long as there is a tribe, we have a reduced fee that we pay for that, and it does not go up with inflation or anything else. So the Montana tribes have just been very upfront, you know, on what they're doing to try to be very proactive in this. So it's really kind of neat. But the risk of stereotype is always an issue. Yeah. Yeah, Lyle.
You addressed the, I think it's the GENA legislation. What does that really give protection?
Yeah, GENA, you mean the GINA? Yeah, not GENA like ours. Yeah, it's a different GENA. Totally different. There have been about 9 different federal legislations to protect genetic specimens. And in actuality, they're much better than they used to be, because we did have people who took part in a genetic test, some without knowing they were in a genetic test. And as a result, one was kicked out of the tribe, their tribal nation. But taking part in the genetic test, your privacy is supposed to be protected. But what was happening in the mid-1990s to the early 2000s is that if I found out that I have a certain marker, let's say I've got BRCA1. Okay? Now the penetrance for BRCA1, or the number of my offspring likely to be affected, ranges anywhere from 30% to 60%. But what was being done is that if I had BRCA1, my children could not get health insurance. And they could have, if the insurance company paid for the test and you were applying for a job at another organization that used the same insurance company, the insurance company had the right to share that information, and they'd say, this person's likely to have breast cancer and that's expensive, so you don't want to hire her or him. Because BRCA2's in men, okay, as well as women. Okay. So, so the discrimination was quite present. I think that the latest GENA one that is what, 3 years ago, 2009, I think. Again, it's better. Every time they do one, like the Kennedy law, when it came out, everyone was like, oh, this is going to do it. Privacy is protected. You're not going to be screwed because you have a SNP or a mutation somewhere in the sequence of bread slices that are in your genome. And yet people still were. So it keeps getting better, but no, it's not 100% protection. I don't think so. Do you? Yeah, okay, yeah. What else? Moving on? Going once. By the way, I'm here all day, so if you need anything, you can ask me. Okay, so did anyone talk about Havasupai yesterday? Just mentioned in passing, or did you get any details? Okay, you want the real skivvy or you want the politically correct version? Okay, I do real. The real situation is that you have researchers at Arizona State University who are wonderful, ethical people. They would never do what this slime bag SOB woman did in her relationship with the Havasupai Nation. It is not just Havasupai who was affected. There are 4 other tribes that were affected in the research that she did. Unfortunately, what has happened because of the Havasupai is that all of the researchers, including the young students, have been affected because of the unethical behavior for this woman. And I'm going to tell you the end of the story right now. This woman received no punishment. This woman transferred before the caca hit the fan and was promoted to a higher position and a significantly higher salary. And she has been on TV and she's been on YouTube saying, if I had to do it again, I'd do it again. I see nothing wrong with it. But her actions screwed ethical people who are at Arizona State University. And I mention that starting off because I think a lot of people hear about this and we start saying, that Arizona State University, what'd they do? And then we kind of think that they're all slime bags. And that couldn't be further from the truth. There are very wonderful people and they're devastated. We have American Indian PhD students who were ready to graduate from Arizona State University. And when this event came on, there's an ordinance against any further use of genetic specimens at Arizona State University, and those students did not get their doctorate degrees. Similarly, students of all races, master's degree, if they had American Indian specimens, they did not get their degree. So this has far-reaching things than what you usually hear in the news. It's not just that Havasupai had this experience. It has ripples that affect many other people. Some of those young students went to other institutions and other colleges, but they had to start over, which is a lot of money. If they had loans, now they've got double the loans to pay off. So it's very, very significant. Okay, so in Havasupai, do you know where Havasupai is? It's absolutely gorgeous. It's gorgeous. You go way down in this canyon. If you're pregnant, it's not so gorgeous, okay? Because if you're pregnant, when you're close to your delivery time, they put you on a horse or a mule, and you ride, switchback, switchback, switchback. You go through, I think it's 12 switchbacks to get to the top of the canyon, where a helicopter comes and picks you up and then takes you someplace to have your baby. And you thought your delivery was bad, huh? It puts it in a totally new concept. So it's in Arizona. It's at the beautiful, Grand Canyon, beautiful fresh water running through it. It's absolutely lovely, lovely place to be. And great hiking trails and everything that are around it. Now, what happened in the study is that the slime bag SOB pig woman, I know someday she's going to try to sue me, and I'm going to say, hey, try it. She basically came to the Havasupai Nation and she said, are you concerned about diabetes in your community? Now, I'm sorry. Does anybody know of an American Indian community that is not interested in diabetes? Because I certainly don't. Everybody's interested in diabetes. It's an incredible impact on our quality of life. Right? So, of course, they say yes. And according to her, the consent form was perfectly clear and easy to read. According to the tribal members, they felt that they were taking specimens to help with one study and one study only, and that was to study diabetes. Because we want to do something about diabetes in our community. Okay? We have to do something. It's killing us, and it's hitting younger and younger people. So they're high interest level. So the misuse of blood that's on here, she collected the blood specimens. She shared them with colleagues at Arizona State University without informing the tribe. They conducted totally different types of studies. We still don't know all the different studies that the blood was used for. She just turned over specimens to other colleagues without informing the tribal nation at all of what was happening. So Havasupai, she misused the blood samples. The biggest thing that really upset the tribe is that they found out that they were publishing a paper about schizophrenia in the Havasupai Nation. Now, why that is significant, if you look at a genome that is pretty darn pure, it's going to be Havasupai. They're way down in that canyon. You know, you want to court a woman, you got to hike to get down to court that woman. There's just a lot that goes into getting accepted into the community. And so their genome, it doesn't have a lot of admixture, as does all of us in this room. We have a much more genetic admixture or mixture with different racial groups and so on. So it's very, very precious type of specimens. So they were used for schizophrenia. They studied population migration, basically mitochondrial DNA, which the Havasupai have specific beliefs about their origin theories. They are not interested in mitochondrial DNA. They never knew anything of what was being going on with mitochondrial DNA. Inbreeding. And the inbreeding is an interesting thing because it's related also to another condition called albinism. And albinism is when people lack pigment, sometimes in the eyes and so on. Well, in other tribes that are in this area, Hopi tribe, and in a couple of the clans in Navajo Nation, there are subsets of albino people. And that's a genetic link. And so they were thinking they would find some of that in the Havasupai, which as far as I know, they did not, by the way. But again, they're a very protected genome. So the informed consent didn't explain that they were going to be used for all these different studies. And they thought it was for a single study, and then she ended up giving it to anybody, whoever wanted it. And I'll let that one go. And they ended up giving a $700,000 fine Arizona State University paid. And there are tribal sanctions now that are carried on by at least 5 tribes that they will not collaborate with Arizona State University on any type of research that includes specimen collection. Hey, so that's pretty significant. But again, the other impact is on the students who are in there and all the other good faculty who are there who didn't do anything wrong with this, which is not to say the Havasupai were wrong in what they did. I'm surprised that the other tribes didn't join in the class action lawsuit. I'm very surprised that they didn't. So, and the PI got a new job, got promoted, and she thinks that she didn't do anything wrong at all. Moving on. Okay, so through GENA, we've had, and actually now we've had 4,000 American Indians or Alaska Natives who have been community members taking part in our different GENA curricula. And so we've had consensus on different issues that people want resolved before they move forward in different types of projects. And in general, if you look at any Indian community, we're all interested in diabetes. We want to do something about diabetes. We're all interested in obesity. we've got a lot of different issues with obesity and how we want to look at it. Cancer has finally gotten into the top 5 of something like 20% of the 565 federally recognized tribes as a priority area. So we're happy that cancer has been raised as a level because we can prevent a lot of this. Heart condition.